Hey guys, King of Charmass here. Today I'll be a judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you my top 5 teams for Season 8 Great League part... I think, wait, hold on. This is, the 3rd time or 2nd time Great League's been out, right? Something like that? I don't know. Anyways, this is my current top 5 for Open Great League. I know Open Great League hasn't changed much, but different patterns do populate, and because Go Battle League is just this open, swirling pool of chaos, it's like you throw a bunch of stuff in the laundry and then hit wash, and then this is what you get for Go Battle League. That's probably a really good analogy to put it. But anyways, if you can't just simply wax on and wax off, and you have to literally go in there and just pray that whatever you come in with is going to do really well, because the thing about Open Great League, even though it's a really great league because a lot of things can work, a lot of things can work, that also means a lot of teams are out there that could be really good. So, my job is to give you my top 5 for Season 8 Great League, whichever part it is now. Anyways, Great League will be out for another week, so I want to make this video just to give you this week to prepare before Ultra League and Ultra League Remix do come out. Anyways, as I always say, please consider contributing to pbook.com, and let's get started. Alright, so for team number 5, I have your typical G-Fist, Pelipper, Safe Switch, and Venusaur. The Poison type buff did come out, because even with Pidgeot and the Poison type buff being out though, G-Fisk is still a beast, and it's still incredibly powerful. You could use it to break shields, you could Safe Switch into Pelipper, which is a fantastic general Safe Switch even to this day, just because Pelipper does well against so many Poison types, just because a lot of Poison types, like Nidoqueen specifically, are weak to water, and there's nothing that basically resists Pelipper with Weather Ball Hurricane. Hurricane will allow you to take back Switch against a lot of scenarios, and of course you have Venusaur as a closer just because Frenzy Plant is so freaking strong. This team is still incredibly powerful. A great team to use if you are used to heavy pressure, and again, Pelipper is still a fantastic Safe Switch, so even with the Poison and the Flying type buff like I mentioned, this team is still really freaking good. Extremely safe, as you see here. Amazing safety. Not so much bulk, just because when you put it Pelipper and Venusaur on super bulky, does have great coverage and consistency. As you see here, this team doesn't do well against Medicham if you see it in the lead, but I've placed plenty of Medichams in the lead. All you do is Safe Switch into Pelipper, and that's why you have Venusaur. Venusaur Frenzy Plant does really well against Medicham, unless it has Shield or Energy advantage, and Pelipper can still take Switch against a lot of things. So you could realign, win Switch, and then have Venusaur on Medicham. Done it plenty of times, and it's been able to beat a lot of my opponents with it. You can also sack G-Fist, so you have the option of sacrificing G-Fist in the lead, and then you can clear the back row with Pelipper and Venusaur, or you say Switch into Pelipper, Hurricane through shields to hopefully take back Switch, and or have a really strong match for whatever comes in for Switch, and then Venusaur can, just because Community moves do so much damage, it can do a ton of it. You just Frenzy Plant everything to death. This team is still incredibly powerful, as you see here. Your only weakness really is your fighters, but that's what you have Pelipper and Venusaur for. This team covers each other very well. Pelipper is a fantastic generalist Safe Switch, and Venusaur with Frenzy Plant's a beast. And of course, Pancakes. Galarian Stunfisk is a beast, we all know that, and still incredibly powerful, and this team will still do really well for you in Open Great League. Alright, next up we have Venusaur, Sableye, and Stunfisk. This is one of my friend's really good teams, Ramel. He used this team to make Legend several times, and this team is still incredibly powerful. Sableye Safe Switch is still a beast, and statistically, Sableye Safe Switch teams have done really well. Venusaur is also a powerful lead. Venusaur with Frenzy Plant is still able to do heavy damage. Sableye is still a fantastic Safe Switch, and of course, Pancakes. As in Galarian Stunfisk is a really great back row mon. As you see here, this team really has the same, kind of the same statistics as the other team. Practically the same statistics. You use everything. The only difference is you have a Sableye Safe Switch and you have Venusaur in the lead instead of Pancake. So, Venusaur lead is still incredibly powerful. As you see here, this team does really well against Medicham. Venusaur and Sableye do really great against that core. Also, Galarian Stunfisk is still able to do really well against Flyers, as well as Bastiodon. It kills Bastiodon, that's all you need to know. But as you see here, this team does really well against overall meta picks. It's also still incredibly strong because there's not a lot of things that core break this entire team. As you see here, you're not likely to see a lot of Fortresses. You might see Obstagoons, but you could still force Obstagoon shield with Venusaur. You could sack Venusaur, then you could use Stunfisk to close out, or Sableye, Typhlosion, and Sunny Cast Form. You won't see too much of them. Your Worst lead is probably going to be either a Flyer or like a Talonflame, but Talonflame can still fall to Galarian Stunfisk because of Rock Slide, and of course Sableye is a powerful Stay Switch. You lose the lead, Stay Switch with Sableye, and then hopefully Galarian Stunfisk and Venusaur can close out. Statistically a very powerful team. If you have great energy management, this team is basically like the previous team, but it just has a different combination, like I mentioned, and it does really well against the overall Open Great League meta. This team will still very powerful and can still serve you very well, and I've actually used it a few times, tested it for this cycle, and it's still doing very well in Open Great League. Alright, so if you like Nidoqueen, this is actually the most powerful team of the previous Open Great League when it first came out, with Nidoqueen, Jellicent, and Scrafty. This team was doing very well for me when I was still using it for the Great League, well, Open Great League when it first came out, and it got me a lot of dubs. Nowadays, there's a lot of teams that do have Nidoqueen, but if you do like Nidoqueen counters, but if you do like Nidoqueen, this team is still incredibly strong. As you see here, only good coverage, only good bulk, not a great safety and great consistency. This team does really well against a lot of combinations. Nidoqueen can bust through a lot of things because of the poison buff with Poison Fang. You're able to debuff a lot of things. Then you can close out with Jellicent or Scrafty in the back. Really great team. Tested it a lot. Like I said before, though, there are a lot of teams that did make a contingency plan against Nidoqueen. So because of that, it's kind of, this team's still really good, but if you do find yourself like, okay, it's Nidoqueen counter heavy or Poison counter heavy, then you can switch out, because as you see here, there's a lot of potential threats. Nidoqueen does fall to a lot of the Ghost type archetypes, as you see here. It can also get basically Skarmory. Steel types, Ghost types do resist Poison. And there's a lot of times where Nidoqueen will have to Earth Power its way to victory if you see something like a Galarian Stunfisk. So it's a very powerful lead, don't get me wrong. A lot of ways you could set up Nidoqueen to break shields, lower defense, and then sweep with your back row. Otherwise, if you lose the lead, safe switch into Jellicent, and then close out with Scrafty, and hopefully Nidoqueen and Scrafty is enough to take out your opponent. Still a really powerful team. Like I mentioned, it has a very high threat score though, so if you do find there's a lot of counters to Nidoqueen in the lead, or the Poison type archetype in general, switch to one of these other teams. These other teams will still serve as well, but again, this was the most powerful team. Tested it myself, and it was very, very strong for the first round of Open Great League when Poison types first got buffed. Alright, for my final two teams, if you really like using the Medicham Bastiodon core, it's still really freaking good. And my two teams will feature the Medicham Bastiodon core, starting with Medicham, Bastiodon, and Sableye. This team really is not that spicy. It really isn't. Medicham and Bastiodon core, once Medicham got in XL, it basically was insanely powerful. This just uses Sableye, which is basically statistically one of the most powerful safe switches, and at one point was the most powerful safe switch in Go Battle League, so it's still really freaking good. When you put the most powerful core and one of the most powerful safe switches, you get this beastly combination of just absolute destruction. As you see, despite the poison buff and Pidgeot coming out, this team still has an A for amazing coverage. I mean, basically A's across the board. The only thing you don't straight A when it comes to an Asian report card is the safety. And it's very true. If you don't get A's on everything, then if you are of Asian descent, you can have a very rough time. Well, actually, yeah, I think to this day still, I'm Filipino, so, straight A's. But this team is this is one of the teams that will get you a straight A combination in Open Great League, and it's the Medicham Bastiodon core with Sableye. Ironically, it doesn't have an A for safety, but Sableye is just a beast, so technically all of these should be A's in my opinion. As you see, this team does really well against so much of the meta still, despite all the buffs the buffs in the current meta. And there's actually no team that core breaks this entire team, or no mon that actually core breaks this entire team. Jellicent does have a strong match against Medicham and Bastiodon. However, you can psychic your way to victory through Jellicent, break shields, and then close out with Bastiodon and Sableye. You could sack Medicham, then close out with the two in the back. Bastiodon, the reason why it's so strong is that down shield, Bastiodon can still take out things like Altaria. It can still take out a Pelipper. Basically, Bastiodon is just an absolute destroyer. It will destroy everyone's elo, and it will serve you and give you a lot of elo if you lock it into a really positive match for the back. Because of that, Bastiodon, as you see here, we see all these red X's. That's why Bastiodon is so good. It can destroy so much of the meta down shields. You can literally be down 0 to 2, and because it will literally just smack down your opponent to oblivion. It will be like a Friday night. It won't be John Cena though, because you can't see John Cena, but you know what? This team is still really good. So Medicham, Bastiodon, and Sableye is still incredibly powerful. Alright, and the final team I have here is the Bastiodon Medicham core, all along with Meganium in the back. All this really does is just Bastiodon in the lead, and then you have Medicham as your safe switch with Power Up Punch and Ice Punch. Medicham is still a very powerful safe switch. It can either break shields or it can outright just rev up with Power Up Punch and then take switch from whatever is in front of you. This is statistically the most powerful Bastion Medicham combination. I believe this was like team number 4 or 5. So this was a top 5 team and the most powerful Bastion Medicham core combination for Season 8 Great League, Open Great League when the top teams first released. So this was the most powerful one so far. Meganium is still incredibly powerful. Earthquake has great coverage. Frenzy Plant is a community that does a lot of damage. So this team is still really freaking good. Great coverage, not statistically not as good as the Sableye team, but not as far as grading goes, but like statistically over as far as performance, it beats the Sableye team. As you see, A for bulk, A for consistency. Only good safety, sadly, because having Medicham and Meganium in the back isn't great against a lot of combinations, but it's still really powerful. Well, this whole team is super meta with only great coverage. But as you see here, if you go ahead here, the only mons going to give you a hard time really is a Medicham lead. Medicham lead has been discouraged because of Nidoqueen leads. Bastion also has a hard time against Nidoqueen leads though, so hopefully you can stay switching to Medicham and then close out with Meganium, just because Nidoqueen is a very rough lead. But this team does well against a lot of other meta picks. You could choose to sacrifice Bastion and then close out with the back row, or just stay switching to Medicham and then try to close out the game that way. As you see here, this team is incredibly powerful, does well against a lot of combinations, but there are a lot of things that kind of break the first 2 mons. This team really takes advantage of Meganium's pressure and the fact that this entire team just does a lot of damage over time, which is why it has an A for consistency. But it's still incredibly powerful, and I've tested it a bit, and it still does really good. Not really surprising as why it's the most powerful Medicham Bastion core team for Season 8 Open Great League. Decently low threat score. A high threat score is like 700. The low threat score on this end is like 530, like close to like 600. So this team's actually pretty safe. If you don't like this variant, the other variation with Sableye statistically rates higher, but rates lower than this one just because Meganium catches more combinations in the back for Season 8. But as you see here, whichever combination you use, this team is incredible. Medicham Bastion is just basically really freaking good. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys had a wonderful GoFest as well. Hopefully your GoFest got you a lot of PvP mons, because there was a lot of PvP stuff that you could catch and then build for the future Go Battle Leagues. And a lot of these, the teams that I mentioned to you, have a lot of mons that have been either really good for more than one season or just great generalists across the board, across many different kind of limited meta cups that Niantic could probably dish out. These teams I gave to you are extremely powerful, still really popular and common, so if you're using these teams, not to wonder why. They're just really that good. And I faced them a lot. They've either killed my elo, or I've tested them out, and they've got me a lot of positive sets, so that's why these teams, like these teams a lot. But hopefully these teams do help you out. Great League is out for another week before Open Great League, Open Ultra League and Ultra League Remix, so expect a lot of content on that as well. Great League is pretty rough. If you don't like Open Great League, the Great League Remix has a lot of great teams. A lot of great variety that you could use that's actually statistically really good. So, Open Great League, again, if you don't like Open Great League Remix is there. Again, hope you guys had a wonderful GoFest. You guys could do me a huge favor. You see that like and subscribe button? Or actually, if you see that sub button at the bottom right, you can just put your mouse over it and easily subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And did I mention liking and subscribing is totally free? I hope you guys had a wonderful GoFest, and for all my subscribers, I hope you have all the hundo, shundo, and shiny luck that I can possibly give you. And if you are subscribed, I really do appreciate you. If you are not subscribed yet, again, it's totally free. Liking and subscribing is totally free, and you can easily do it using the method I mentioned below. See that little box at the bottom right? Just put your mouse over it, and poof, you can easily subscribe. Thank you guys for all the support. Hope you guys had a wonderful GoFest. Again, hopefully these Great League teams do help you out, because they're pretty common, and generally they're good against a lot of current top meta picks, or current top meta combinations. Other than that, good luck on your guys' Go Battle League sets, and I will see you on the next video.